Hello, my name is Aviva and welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to make a spoiler-free review of Red, White, and Royal Blue. And if you're not familiar with what this book is about, this is a romance book between the son of the President of the United States and the Prince of England. And if you haven't seen this book before, then I'm a little bit surprised because this book is super hyped up all over the internet. I have seen this book around for a really long time and I've heard so many amazing things about this book that is actually one of the reasons I have been pushing it off for a long time. It's been sitting on my shelf for a couple of months, and before it was sitting on my shelf, it was sitting on my TBR for a couple of months. And I kept pushing this book off because I've heard such good things about it, and I was kind of a little bit nervous to go into it with all of the hype because I was expecting it to be good, and I was a little bit nervous that it wasn't going to live up to my expectations, and therefore I didn't want to waste it or spoil the book on a time when I wasn't in the mood for it. But I was in kind of a reading slump, and I was in the middle of reading a bunch of romance novels because when I'm in a reading slump and I don't know what to read, I pick up romance books. And I decided I was finally going to pick this one up because first, it was on my March TBR, and I figured if I put it there, why don't I pick it up? And I also picked it up because when I'm looking through all my romance books that I haven't read before, I try to pick up the one that seems like it's going to be the best from all of the ones I haven't read before. And this one was kind of the ones that were up there based off the hype and everything I've heard about it. So anyway, I picked it up, and I'm not sad to say that I am going to be another reviewer who says that even though I expected it to be good because of all the hype, it was better than I thought it was going to be. So let's get straight into why I thought it was amazing. First of all, the romance of it was so adorable. Also, I haven't read many gay romances in the past, and not that I was worried about that or anything, but I happen to be all for these two characters. They were so adorable. I loved everything about them personality-wise, and because this book is a little bit larger than most romance book that I read, I mean, this one was only 400 pages, but it felt like it went really far. Sometimes romance books, they feel really quick, and even though I read this in a single day and it was an extremely enjoyable day for me, I felt like this book really went far. It takes place over a little bit over a year, and you really feel the growth there. It doesn't feel too rushed or that you didn't get enough information. I feel like it was paced out extremely well. And besides for the fact that it obviously had a great romance because it's a romance book, and therefore, because I'm saying I liked it, I obviously enjoyed the romance. But this was different than I expected it to be. You know when you go into a romance and there's always a trope. Either you're dealing with enemies to lovers or friends to lovers, or I had no idea who you were turned into lovers. And throughout the book, you're kind of following their story of falling in love one way or another. And then right before the end of the book, something happens and you go 10 steps back. And then the end of the book is, okay, now we'll be together happily ever after. So with that said, this book was slightly different than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be more of, we're going to read the book and watch them fall in love. But it was more of them turning from enemies to friends to lovers. And then the rest of the book was an actual romance, you're actually watching them fall deeper and deeper in love. And I very much enjoyed that. It was a little bit different than the regular romance book I picked up, and it just made you fall in love with the characters so much more because you really got to see them both actually being aware that they love each other. And obviously there's stuff that goes on, and they're dealing with feelings and things and a lot of other stuff. Obviously, there's a lot of problems going on in their lives because they are gay. They don't want to come out as gay to the public. They both live very public eyes. There's a lot of political stuff that goes on. Obviously, there's more going on. But what I mean to say is that it was much more of a romance love story than it was a romance let's fall in love story. And because of that, I really, really enjoyed it. I kind of had a smile on my face the whole time. And even though I will admit and say that the first 100 or so pages for me in this book was a little bit oh my God, this book is not as good as I thought it was going to be. I was a little bit pulled away from it, and I wasn't so sure how I was feeling about it. But then after about 100 pages, things really turn around, and then it was zoom ahead. I loved this book. So I will admit and say that like this was a little bit of a rocky start for me, but it could have been because of all the hype. And in the beginning of the book, you're kind of dealing with like a lot more of like the political base of the book. Like you're getting to know a lot about the characters and their lives and how they fit in to politics and all of that sort of stuff. And because of that, I think that I was a little bit pulled out of the story because I'm not such like a political person. But once the romance and, you know, them two coming together like started to pick up, I was all for this book. So slow start, amazing middle and end of the book. So even though it had a bad beginning, I'm not letting that deter me from giving this an amazing 5-star review. So overall, absolutely loved this book. Nothing bad I can really say other than the fact that if you're not into politics and you don't enjoy reading things about like politics and like anything to do with politics, then I still recommend reading it, but just be aware that there are politics in here. And not that like I'm against politics or anything, but it's not something that I particularly enjoy reading about or following in modern day news or anything like that. So it was a little bit more boring for me in the political moments, but it's not something that I would say should have come out of this book, because if it didn't have every single political moment and motive and all of those stuff in this book, it wouldn't have been what it was. Because of who they were as people in the like modern eye and all of that stuff and everything that happened politically, etc., made this book what it was. And therefore I'm not complaining about it, I'm just mentioning it because this is my review and these are my thoughts on this book. So I'm curious to know what you thought about this book. If you haven't read it yet, if you plan to put it on your TBR, I'd love to chat about it down in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and like always, thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it, and until next time, enjoy reading.